Route 2, the gas station that shouldn't exist. They say Route 2 is a forgotten road, carved through Maine's thickest woods, where the trees lean too close and the silence feels alive. It's a stretch of highway that time forgot, a place where the clocks slow, radios crackle with voices not your own, and shadows move without light. Most locals won't talk about it, and if they do, it's in hushed tones with eyes darting toward the tree line. Sarah wasn't thinking about any of that. She was just tired. The kind of tired that makes the world feel like it's underwater. Muted, slow, dreamlike. Her road trip had stretched from sunrise into the cold bleeding of twilight, and her eyelids felt heavier than her steering wheel. The Maine dusk wasn't kind. It descended like a fog, painting the sky in bruised purples and deep, suffocating greys. Every mile felt like she was slipping deeper into something she didn't understand. Then, just as she reached her breaking point, something appeared on the horizon. A flickering neon sign. Joe's Gas. It buzzed faintly in the twilight like a dying firefly. At that moment, it felt like salvation. But sometimes, salvation is just the start of the nightmare. The gravel crunched under her tires as she pulled into the lot. The building looked frozen in time, an old wooden structure with warped siding, faded paint, and a rusted Coke machine that hadn't worked in decades. A single bulb hung above the door, casting a weak cone of yellow light that barely touched the ground. The bell above the door jingled when she stepped inside, the sound shrill in the stillness. No music, no TV, just the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the smell of oil and mildew. Dust motes swirled in the air like ash. They danced slowly, unnaturally, as if caught in water instead of air. Behind the counter stood a man, Joe, presumably. His name tag looked handmade, written in faded marker on yellowed plastic. His smile stretched too far, like someone trying to mimic a smile without ever having seen one. "Haven't had a traveller in days," he said, his voice a low rasp, rough like gravel dragged across cement. "Welcome to Joe's." Sarah forced a polite smile. "Just need a fill-up." He nodded slowly, as though considering the request like it was a puzzle. She stepped back outside and began pumping gas. The nozzle clicked with life, and to her surprise, the meter spun as if connected to something. But when she looked up, her stomach twisted. The power lines above the station were completely severed, dangling loose, swaying in the wind. There was no generator, no hum, no source for electricity at all. She paid quickly, her hands trembling as she handed over the card. Joe smiled again, wider this time, and handed her a receipt, the paper warm like it had just been printed. She didn't look at it until she was back in the car, doors locked, engine running. That's when she saw it, the date. Next Tuesday. She stared at the paper in stunned silence. It wasn't just a day ahead, it was 6 days into the future, and the timestamp matched the current hour, down to the minute. A mistake, she told herself, an old printer, a glitch. But that logic rang hollow in her chest. Sarah checked her phone, hoping to call someone, anyone. But the screen showed only empty bars. No service. Not even the faint SOS signal. The battery percentage flickered for a second, dropping suddenly from 72% to 0%. The screen went black. Panic set in, cold and sharp. She looked in the rearview mirror. The road behind her was empty, swallowed by forest and fog. She started the car, wheels spinning against gravel as she turned around. She had to go back. She needed to see that date again, to prove it to herself. When she returned, less than 10 minutes later, the gas station was gone. The lights were out. The sign was dead. The windows were boarded up. No cars, no sounds. Just a hollow structure standing in the silence like it had been abandoned for decades. And yet the door creaked open with a single touch. Inside, the transformation was total. The walls that once held stocked shelves were now covered in grime and cobwebs. Dust blanketed everything like snow, thick enough to write in with a finger. The air smelled of rot and old rain. There was no sign of life, No register, no signs of recent movement, just an oppressive stillness. Then she saw it. A pile of tires in the back, stacked awkwardly in the corner. Behind them, a narrow door she hadn't noticed before. It was slightly ajar, as if waiting. The temperature dropped instantly. The air was colder here, heavy, wet, and metallic. Her breath came out in clouds despite the warm summer air outside. The room was lined with shelves, each holding boxes, jars, and photographs. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Each photo showed the same man, Joe. But the sequence was wrong. In the earliest photos, Joe was an old man, grey hair, sunken eyes, wrinkles like crumpled parchment. Then in the next photo, he looked younger. In the next, younger still. The reverse aging continued, photo by photo, until she reached the final image. A baby in a tiny gas station uniform. His name tag read Joe. She dropped the photo, heart racing. It fluttered to the floor silently, landing face up. From the shadows behind her, a voice crept in. "You weren't supposed to come back." She spun around. There he was, Joe. But not as he had been. His face had changed, less human now. His eyes glowed faintly, pupils impossibly wide, mouth stretched unnaturally from cheek to cheek. His skin pulsed faintly, like it was lit from beneath. And he was younger, noticeably younger than he had been 20 minutes ago. Joe took a step forward. "You fed it. When you paid, when you turned back. It remembers you now." Sarah backed away, stumbling over a fallen box. "What is this place?" Joe's smile didn't falter. "It's not a place, it's a loop, a feeding ground, for memory, for time, for those foolish enough to stop when they should have kept going." He reached out a hand. "And now you belong here." They say Route 2 is a forgotten road, winding through the oldest trees and the deepest silences. A road where time doesn't just pass, it collects. And if you're not careful, if you linger too long or question too much, you might leave something behind. Or worse, take something with you that doesn't belong. Have you ever stopped somewhere that didn't feel real? A place too quiet, too still, too strange? Tell us in the comments. And if you ever find yourself on Route 2 with no signal, no lights, and a flickering sign offering gas, don't stop, drive, and never look back. Subscribe for more true stories from America's forgotten roads, because some journeys aren't meant to be remembered.